right, so we're on to step 3I, and we're going to select and prepare the sea turtle's head. So we've got his shell basically built, including tail, and now we've got to determine the head. In my pattern for you, in your direction sheet, you've got a sheet that looks like this. And I put this in on purpose for a couple of reasons. One, I did want to give you a selection of head. In my mind, this head shape is more realistic to what an actual sea turtle is, but some people might not love that. This one is more symmetrical, meaning more the same from right to left. It is the one that I stitched and showed you in the in your booklet with the diagrams and the photos, and it's the one that I'm going to do again. But I have to say, actually, this one is probably more my favorite. But this may appeal to more people, and it's a personal choice. I did write out the directions. This is important because my kits, when they come to you, are almost always completely die cut. In this particular case, I didn't have a sea turtle head, and I didn't want to buy a custom die to just cut nothing but a sea turtle head. But it's important for you to understand how to trace a motif, because your average designer, that's what they're going to have you do. So it'd be a great idea to get a small taste of it in this one so that you could pick up any wool designer's pattern and work it even if the parts weren't already pre-fused and die cut for you. All right, so I said I've selected this particular head shape, and in your kit you had 2 additional pieces. You had wool for the head, and you had a piece of fusible to trace one head. Now I've gone ahead and traced it already, but what I want to show you is this dark line is dark enough that you should be able to match, just make sure you have at least 1/4 of an inch extra all the way around, and then simply trace it. And that's exactly what I did. I didn't need a window, I didn't need a light box. I just laid the light Steam-A-Seam 2 fusible with both its waste papers still intact on top of that image, and then I simply just traced around it. And so that's what you would need to do. So we've selected the head and we have traced it, and then what do? Well, the first thing I want you to do is remember this little ditty down here. And a ditty is just a saying to help you remember. And it's I want you to remember that the first line I draw, which is this line, is the last line I cut. So as I'm looking this over, I've got a lot of fusible I don't need. Please don't come in and cut already on the line you drew. I want you to be at least 1/4 of an inch away, or a scant 1/4 of an inch away. So I'm going to cut some fusible away, but note I have not cut on my line yet, and please don't cut on your line yet. I'm just going to trim some excess. So I did that. And now I'm going to eyeball over this piece of wool. And, technically wool does have a right and wrong side, but it is a woven, yarn dyed woven thing in this particular case. So you just, pick what you like the best. I'm going to go ahead and call this my wrong side. I'm going to turn my traced turtle head over, and I'm just going to roll it, and I want the fusible to stay intact or stuck to the yellow grid side. So if you need to move around to make sure it behaves, then move around. This piece, when you feel it, it might have a few little nubbies of the fusible on it, but it's basically smooth and it's all white. That leaves me the traced gridded side, and that's what I'm going to place on here. And I'm going to choose a spot on the wool that kind of splits the difference between light and dark. And then I'm just going to finger press that from this side. I'm going to turn it over and finger press it from this side. And then I'm going to go to a dry iron, because we're ironing on paper. The parchment is paper. And I'm going to iron that. So what I did off camera was simply, in 3 to 5 seconds, I've just laid that down. This iron is pretty hot, okay? And so I've done that already. So I have fused, placed the exposed fusible down, and I am right here at pressing it, and then finally cut it out on the line. And I tend to cut it with the way I'm holding it to the right of the line. And we talked about cutting before. Your scissors are basically perpendicular to the work or parallel to your line. And you actually move the work and not the scissor. So we're just gonna cut that out real quick. Try to hold those scissors just straight up and down, not at an angle, so that you don't bevel your work. And I'm just gonna real quick cut that out. Chop that off. Set your scrap aside. By the time you finish this project, you may have dreamed up something that you can do with that. Maybe you're gonna make a tiny sea turtle out of it or something. So there's my cut piece. You know, it's fairly symmetrical in the drawing. It may not be so symmetrical when I cut it out. If you need to trim something off, do it in little 1/8 inch nips. Don't take a big hunk out of it, because with the waist, you don't have enough to cut another one. So I need you to get it pretty correct from the get-go. All right, and so at that point then, I'm going to go ahead and stop the video, and then we'll move on to steps, the second part of step 3I and then step J.